Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are so back to the Dual Comm Party Chat podcast. We had a little bit of a unusual back-to-back-to-back normal Dual Comm since we were super stoked on the state of play, and so we skipped out on an episode of Party Chat. This is our companion podcast to that Dual Comm podcast over on BBK Dragoon's channel, where we answer your questions and talk about some expanded topics and things like that. I am your host, Mr. Epos Fox, and you are also our host, Mr. BBK Dragoon.
Barbecue chicken dragon man person. So I'm excited. Yeah, it's been 3 weeks to the day almost that we recorded. Yeah, 1 day over the 3-week mark. So I'm looking forward to reading some topics. We haven't done a PC party chat in a long time then, probably 6 weeks, 5 weeks. So summer is here, dude. Summer is here. Let's start with this video of the week you got in the document here. What is this?
You know, that's a valid question. Let me see what it is. Oh, yeah. So this is a video from the wonderful Rasputin channel. I guess it's one of those things that's like, do we shout out a channel that has almost 1 million subscribers? And does that really...
Amazing video essays. Amazing ones.
But it is a very, very good video breaking down examples of video games that were deemed bad, that were just like crapshoots, that didn't perform well, that just were bad overall, but had like really good feeling mechanics. And one of the obvious ones that might come to mind when you think about that is the Iron Man-like flying that attracted everyone to Anthem. But then all the live service crap is what made no one want to play Anthem, even though that part supposedly felt really good. It was always on my bucket list to go try it, and I never did.
Yeah.
And now I never will. But then they had another example of the grappling hook in the old remake from like 2009 of, God, why is my brain... I am so tired this morning, dude.
You're doing great. I don't know what this game is, though. I'm looking at this grappling hook. I don't know what game this is.
I literally pulled it out the other day.
Yeah.
That's really annoying.
It looks cool. Well, you'll just have to go watch the video to find out, because I don't have the captions on, but...
It's a cool game. It's a really good video. It breaks down... So it's inspired by a video that was like, here's some really cool stuff in bad movies. And it breaks down examples of these kinds of mechanics in games.
Bionic Commando.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. It breaks down examples of these kinds of mechanics that were really innovative and actually felt really good in games, but like weren't given enough time, weren't the focus, were just kind of a spin-off. And it talks about what we've kind of talked about with the blandification of media, or specifically games, and how if you only keep riffing on the most successful titles, if you make everything a Souls-like or a Fortnite-like, you are homogenizing gameplay mechanics and cool things, or eliminating cool things. Whereas if you take inspiration from these games that had a really, really good idea but didn't really execute it very well, or otherwise just sucked, you can make some really cool stuff. And I think that's really fascinating because we see this in the indie space. All of the really, not all, I'm not going to pretend that's literally everyone, but like so many of the really big indie games that have taken off have taken something that's from like a Flash game or from back in the day, or combined like a physical game with a video game mechanic and just kind of remixed it in a new and unique way that turns into this super addictive, like really cool game idea. And we, at least in the bigger publisher space, we lose that when we're just like, yep, it's time to make the next, back in the 2010s, it's time to make the Halo killer. What's our Halo killer going to be? That horror game Fear? Yeah, that should be a Halo killer now. That niche dystopian Killzone game, that should be a Halo killer. Dead Space, yep, that should be a COD killer.
It's whatever's popular with the kids,
Yeah.
Hello, fellow gamers.
Yeah.
Let me, I'm looking at my review of Anthem from February 2019 because the flying was phenomenal. I am sad that if you didn't get to try it, it really is the best example of like Iron Man flying, a really gorgeous world. They should have made a nice single player title from it. But, I'm going to add another video to throw in here that's going to be jumbled up with Game of the Week.
Ooh.
You put together a huge detailed list of some amazing demos from Steam Next Fest, which just concluded. I don't know. The bummer is sometimes with Next Fest, these demos go away at the end of Next Fest. Some do, some don't. But I really want to applaud the amount of time and work that goes into those, because I don't think people understand just like how many demos you play to actually narrow it down to the ones that you feature in the video. And it saves a lot of time. So I'm going to shameless self-promotion, your channel Lost Saves. Go look at that video if you are trying to find some cool new things to play. And I think that works doubly so for Game of the Week. Did you have a standout 1 or 2 games you want to talk about here?
Yeah, I mean, so many of them were like, I am absolutely going to play as soon as they release. I'm already signed up for notifications for Steam. If I had to pick one that I was like the absolute most excited for, it would be Curse Mark. It is 2D pixel art, basically Diablo. It has some roguelike mechanics. So like you have you die and you run in, but that's pretty typical for ARPGs anyway. And it felt really good. Like it's everything, at least from what I played in the demo, everything I wanted from a beautiful pixel art Diablo game. And so I am over the moon about it, but there are so many good ones.
I just fast forwarded to that point. I mean, what a game for the deck, you know? This looks so
exactly.
much fun for that kind of circumstance. So, well, should we hop into our Patreon comments, Epos?
Yes, we do have a Patreon for our podcasts together at patreon.com/dualcomm, where you can sign up for a free, non-algorithmically tweaked, even though Jack Conti is not necessarily avoiding that anymore with the whole quips.
Well,
I keep getting emails of like, your post could be quips. Here, learn how to make quips. Please make quips. Hey, quips.
We're going to solve the social media problem by making a new social media. But this one will be better, we promise.
But you can get a non-algorithmic feed of both shows kind of collated together, both in audio form, and we post the videos as well as ask questions for Party Chat. And then we do when we have time. The summer's kind of a dry spell just because of scheduling, but we have some Patreon exclusive stuff and things like that. Question number 1 is from Vince. What's your take on playing longer games when you have limited time to game, say 3 to 4 hours per week? If you want to play a game like The Witcher 3, for example, it would take 2 to 3 months to complete. When my time to game became more and more limited in previous years, my first instinct was to not buy as many long games during my teen years. 15-year-old me grew up with games like Fallout New Vegas. But the more I think about this, the more clear it becomes that my fondest gaming memories of the past 5 years are related to longer games, which I bought as an exception to the buy only shorter games rule. The Witness, for example, comes to mind, or Red Dead Redemption 2. I know you guys talk about liking shorter session games, but I do not get the same satisfaction from gaming when I'm constantly hopping from session game to session game or from short indie to short indie. I really like games such as Easy Delivery Co., but I feel they work best as a palate cleanser between longer games or as an intermediate break game. The only downside to playing longer games is that they require some discipline. For me, it's easier to just buy a new game and hop into it rather than booting up the game where you already put 20 hours into. It's actually a question of short-term pleasure versus more long-term pleasure. So I really wanted to throw this to you, BBK, because I feel like you struggle with this a lot in a way that like I don't necessarily. So I'm very curious to hear your perspective.
It was a great question. So I actually had looked at this before the show started, and I thought through like an interesting like question to pose back to the question. Are the memories fonder for the longer games because you put 2 or 3 months into it, because it was a bigger commitment and because it had the opportunity to sort of have a larger impact? Because I do agree. I can think back to like Persona 5 was a huge game. And it took me like 2 years to beat that thing. And I look back so fondly on it, but there's not a chance that I will ever replay it again. It was like 120 hours to finish it. And the Xenoblade games, like I've beaten Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3. And I really like those games, with 2 being the standout, even though people don't see that as like the best one. But those are all like 50, 60-hour games. I fully understand and recognize the question. I just think Vince nailed it, though. Like, the shorter games are great when it fits that time of life, and the longer games, if the longer game has enough draw to keep you enjoying it to earn that commitment, that's when I think it lands well. What's tough is sometimes you have a 50-hour game that you're just sort of forcing yourself to go through, hoping it's going to be a mountaintop. Like, I know people with Red Dead Redemption 2, that's like one of those holy grail kind of experiences for them. And I have picked it up and fallen off a dozen times. I'm like 15 hours through a playthrough, and I see the radness with it, but it's just not landing perfectly with me. So My bow to put on top of it is maybe do a little less overthinking towards things. And this is not talking to Vince, this is talking like to me. And just sort of play what feels good at that time and don't overly worry about the lengthy commitment. If there's a game that you're excited to play it. But if you're not feeling it, like with Persona 5, I just put it down when I didn't have the chance or the season or the ability to put time into it. And yeah, it took 2 years, but it ultimately, I look back and I was like, that was worth it because it was fun, because the game earned it. If it's not really earning it and you're pretty deep in the game, I mean, you get to make the call of like, do I finish this to try and tick the box or do I just, it's like a book. I doubt short stories have the same impact as like reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy, right? One of them, you're going to remember that journey because it's going to be along with you for a longer period of life, right? So what do you think?
I am very torn on this. I have seen you go through phases where I'm just like, yeah, session games, only session games. I'm playing this little game and this little game. And you're like, man, I just want to have my one game I go to and like, reliable, like come home, be done with work, do the game and be good. So like, for example, my wife and I have picked back up on Horizon Forbidden West. We've talked about it a lot on the podcast. It took us like 2 years to play through Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
And we've now been on Forbidden West for like 8 months now. 3, maybe even 4 months of that, we literally didn't play it at all.
Yep.
But like, it is that exact scenario of we only have 30 minutes sometimes or like an hour or two on a given night to play. Often with that kind of game, and I realize not all longer games are like this, but with that kind of game, you can spend that time either doing nothing whatsoever, basically, or basically just like smashing through dialogue because suddenly it's 3 hours later and the game still will not let you pull out of the story stuff that you started because it's just like, yeah, here's a giant cauldron with no breakpoint, and then here's the dialogue after, and then it transports you to a whole nother city because Aloy got hurt or something, and then there's more dialogue, and then there's more dialogue, and like we keep ending up in this position with this game. And I realize, again, this is a specific to this game, but there's a lot of things like this with big story games where like the story is kind of, they want to keep it out of the way of the gameplay. So they pack it all into specific chunks so that the gameplay is nice and free. But when you're in the story thing, like you are railroaded into this movie chunk and just like stuck with it. And sometimes we get like, we get pretty frustrated because like, we're like, okay, we're hooked on the game now because the story is incredible and we're like super stoked on it. But also we are desperate to save and quit because it's 1 a.m. and we should have gone to bed an hour ago. And I personally, I don't know that I feel any specific attachment to a game just because it was bigger. And it's hard to say that knowing that something like Mass Effect or Dragon Age Origins are like peak forever top of my list games for me. But when I think about it, like, if I look back on the games I have played this year, I am just as stoked on the ones that were small games that just ate up my time because I got fixated and like happily obsessed with them as I am the games that took so long to play. And maybe it's because I take too long. Like maybe the difference of like 2 to 3 months would be crazy. Like that would be great. Maybe the difference of 2 to 3 months versus a year or two is very, like, maybe it stretches it too much. But like, if I think about like Warriors Abyss or Jotun Slayer or Luna Abyss, I just played through that. That was an 8-hour standard old school campaign. That thing lives with me. And the fact that I could basically just like take my spare time across a week and finish it was huge. Like that was a big deal to me and made it so much more fun because I was able to like kind of scope out my investment in it. I was like, okay, this is the time I'm going to spend in the game. That's fine. Great. I am here. So I think it ultimately just comes down to what you want out of games, like complete personal preference.
Yeah, it does. And as you get older, you just value time differently. I think you become better at assessing, like, hey, you have a lot on your plate and you recognize like downtime is a little more precious. And so you want to be a little bit more cautious with it. But I think, for me, there's been a lot of overthinking with this stuff. And it you don't have to be aligned in any particular lane. You can sort of just follow your heart and what feels good that day,
Yeah.
and shift when it doesn't. So I've been biting my tongue. I'll continue to bite my tongue as you guys go through Forbidden West because I have a lot of positive thoughts on that game. That I'm not inferring negativity, but I just don't want to influence your experience until you guys are done, and then we can have like a talk about it because it was quite a journey.
Yeah. We
But
already
that is
got
the
to
exact
some.
kind of game where you're like assessing. I'm having fun, but I don't know if I'm really like super locked in right now.
Yeah. And like we've gotten to a couple points, which again, I guess I will also avoid spoilers of just like crazy reveals and things that I predicted from the first game as a joke, where I was just like, it would be funny if this happened, but there's no way they'd go that far. And then it's happening, and I'm just like, oh, we're doing this. Okay. And like, it's great. But then I don't know, with this one, it feels like we kind of have to do all the side stuff to actually have anything. And otherwise, the story moves too fast, and we're just going to finish the game. The pacing in these games, I really feel like, and I've complained about this before, but whatever we quantify as the whole quadruple A walkie-talkie genre in the first place, like it feels weirdly disrespectful of our time, which is a really frustrating criticism to throw at a game that I feel is so good.
You're I think landing on a lot of the frustrations and criticism people have with
Yeah. And it's
that
the same thing with like
style,
our conversation
game.
that we have all the time about God of War. Like,
Yeah.
I can recognize that it seems like it's a wonderful game from the 8 or so hours I put in my first playthrough of 2018. The story was great. It was told really well. Tons of great production value. I understand the appeal. And yet I feel like it is as disrespectful as it gets in my time. And it's so weird to balance those things, because I'm sure Ragnarok is this masterpiece game. And when I get to it, I will feel that way. But I'm sure I will equally feel, I wish it was a little more gamey and respectful of my limited time as a gamer, and not strapping in for a 100-hour movie. And I know it's not 100 hours, but like that, it's this weird paradox we're in with games at the moment, which we'll actually talk about a little bit in a topic later in the show.
Love it. All right, let's hop on to Chiral Drifter's comment. Hey guys, I've been lurking lately. Appreciate all the stuff you've been putting out. Super excited to get my podzine and magazine. My question is this: have you guys been getting into any additional hobbies lately? I know Epos is a beast when it comes to multiple hobbies and bouncing around. My brain works the same. I guess, have you guys found yourself trying anything new lately? It's been harped on quite a bit in this series, but only recently have I seen the positive effects of combining hobbies, combining gaming with physical activity, world building, fictional cartography, painting miniatures, reading, journaling. It's been an absolute blast. All of the hobbies seem to enrich one another. As I let myself create without judgment, I feel even more creative, more willing to bounce around, and find myself less tethered to one hobby, as I found that can become draining. Thanks a lot. Hope you're doing well. Thank you, Chiral. I really like that. That's a great question, too. Take it away, man. Any new hobbies on the Epos Vox Ranch?
So I should have opened the show with this, since I haven't said it in a video. I launched a gaming magazine.
Yeah.
Which Chiral was acknowledging there, because Chiral's already ordered, because what a homie. Or as we'll rename him to, Chiral Lurker, since he just said he's been lurking instead of drifting. But yeah, so I have launched a physical gaming magazine. It's called Jam Packed. It is currently working on printing and will be shipping. I took pre-orders for it at first just to be able to cover the order quantity. We will have a second batch going through July. So if you are interested in that sort of thing, link to it will be in the description below. I am over the moon with the support and response thus far. It has been crazy. And I guess in terms of hobby, like, that has been me learning a whole new software for this, because I wanted to get away from the Adobe stuff. And so I've been learning. I started with Affinity Publisher 2, and then to use it on Linux, I needed to use the new V3 one, which I was kind of trying to avoid. But now now it's just called Affinity, because why have clarification on your product names anymore?
Is it like an InDesign?
Yes. So
stuff?
It is a replacement for InDesign. And like I said, I was planning on just using Publisher 2, but now I'm using the V3, which it's basically the same, but I had like a Linux installer for it. And so that's been fun. That's been great. I already had some InDesign experience. with the college newspaper and my journalism degree and all that stuff. Like I'd learned InDesign, used it for a few personal projects too, but I specifically wanted to not just fall back on what I had already known and challenge myself to learn something new. And so had to learn this whole new program on top of coordinating, getting all this stuff together. So that's been pretty rewarding to just like really push myself and do this kind of thing. And it seems like it's going to turn into a regular recurring thing. And otherwise, as far as hobbies go, I mean, that's been most of my time. So
It's
no.
a ton of work, and you did an
Yeah.
amazing job. And in the description below, will you have the shop list for it?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
You can subscribe to receive quarterly issues at a discounted price and blah, 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 blah.
It's pretty sweet. I'm really excited to see the print version, dude. You sent me over the proof, and it's like, woo, the world is needing this. So I've just been playing a little piano again and gaming and doing
Nice.
a little bit less of stuff. I've been outside quite a bit. So nothing terribly new on the hobby front. I've been slowing down a little bit with YouTube as summer is going, and just a lot of real life work responsibilities and stuff like that. I'm a firm believer. Variety in the hobbies helps substantially. We're in a time now where it's so easy to get hooked into one or two hobbies and then make that your world, because there's limitless amounts of video content and Instagram posts and Reddit posts and discussion, and you can pretty quickly burn yourself out on it by just getting super immersed in the online side. So I like that question a lot.
It's a lot. Speaking of just like the variety of it, I obviously this is not going to be content, but like I've been wanting to, I think you had maybe mentioned it. I've been wanting to get to just like have something to do with my hands from time to time as just like a passing thing, and had wanted to get into just like coloring books, which sounds super silly or whatever, but just like something that's like artsy but not intense and isn't something I need to like share with anyone or make into, like I said, hashtag content or anything like that. And most of the adult coloring books are just like garbage or AI generated at this point. And so for Father's Day, my wife and kid apparently spent a good like couple weeks finding manga panels from DBZ and Pokemon and My Hero Academia and finding good ones that are good to color on, as well as just other coloring things, and built me this whole binder sorted by like anime.
A custom coloring
Yeah.
book. That's
for me to
cool.
pull out and color. And so my kiddo and I have a couple times now been like, I'll be at the table and we got some free easel from a yard sale for him to color on. And he's got Minecraft and Pokemon coloring sheets. And we've just been coloring side by side, which is quite a vibe.
Oh my gosh.
Very
That's
relaxing.
amazing, dude.
Yeah. It's
I
pretty
love
sick.
that. Well, let's hop into the next one here. Hollow Soul. Hey guys, perfect timing to ask for questions. I've been listening again to past podcasts and looking for more advice from the everyday non-professionals lately. I love this community and I've taken a lot from you both over the last 2 years. I'm curious to know if anyone relates to finding comfort in advice and inspiration from our peers and the people who we can relate to. I personally feel that the trend for seeking advice from the professionals and online self-pronounced experts is fading as we seek connection to people as average as you or I. Thanks again, guys. Keep up the good work. Another great question. I mean, it's going to come to a pretty big head, I think, but the self-helpy guru-y trend is exploding in every vertical about everything right now. And, the hard part, as I participated in a lot of that in a like genuinely like heartfelt way, trying to make videos talking about my experience with like this hobby the last couple of years. But I have backed away pretty heavily from trying to share a lot of those little tidbits and thoughts, because there is a weird conflict of interest, really, I think, with the incentive structure for some of this, where what can start as like the genuine heartfelt advice turns into really successful content online.
Mhm.
And then there's the need to continue to create that. And to be honest, if the inspiration isn't there, I think there's a lot of reaching to come up with what is like a really amazing life-changing lesson. You have to do this. I mean, if you just go scroll a lot of like YouTube suggested videos, they all promise such sensational things like buy this DS, it'll change your freaking life. I saw that title and thumbnail today. And I've tried only old games and it changed everything. If you do this, and it's very much like when you're watching TV at like 4 a.m. or like super late and the dumb infomercials come on and they show you how like this new pasta strainer will literally revolutionize your existence. And so I believe you're going to see more people getting fatigued of the kind of content that from the experts, like I think about the people who are always doing productivity tips and how they're always discovering new systems to be like 150% more efficient, and this calendar system and note-taking system. And they literally can't stop because of how like YouTube and internet content works. They literally have to keep discovering new methods instead of like, think to the book era. If somebody had a really killer idea, like Cal Newport's like deep work, he researched it, he spent a bunch of time, he launched the book. That's the book. There's not Deep Learning 2, Deep Learning 3, Deep Learning 5. Like there's
Deep
not a
Learning
new
2, Deeper Learning Boogaloo.
They might do a revision,
Yeah.
but you're able to stop.
I mean, that's something that burns me out of my own niches half the time, is like everything has to become a system and a whole thing. And then on the other side of it, there is a rejection of when you are just trying to make something cool and share for yourself. I don't need to dive too much into the toxicity, but I got a weird amount of comments on my video about the laptop project for my kid that just kept saying like, this is all one giant LARP. And I'm just like, what? And just the like very idea of like doing something that's like slightly against the norm is often considered just like basically, playing, like people are so suspicious of being that like fake guru now that like it's super weird. At the same time, it depends on the subject. There are, especially if it comes to career or creative things, like I'm going to want to know that the person that I'm listening to has any idea what they're talking about, has any sort of experience, has something good to say, because anyone can just say some stuff and sound like, oh yeah, that's a reasonable guy or gal, and then not be.
Well, and this will sound like criticism, but the way that YouTube prioritizes new channels now.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the stuff you're seeing, like I see so much suggested from channels that have 10 or less videos or 2,000 subs, and they're getting that insane, crazy free algorithm juice that the TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok basically did that, and all the other platforms copied it, where when you start out now on YouTube, you've got some serious free recommendation juice. They give you like a plus 20 bonus to circularity or circulation, not circularity. Because they know you're more likely to create if you get more of that dopamine off the rip, and it will slowly pan out, You'll see like the first video's got 500K views, and the rest have like 10 or 12K, and you're like, that's how it goes. But
yeah. And we've talked before about like search results, like when you're just beholden to Reddit being the only reliable one, and then the top comment that is supposed to be your answer is just not real or helpful. Like the
bathroom stall of the internet.
Yeah.
Like somebody scrawling on the bathroom stall.
Yeah. The average Joe, quote unquote, like response isn't necessarily something I trust. And maybe that's elitist of me or too cynical, but like too often am I reading something and I'm just like, yeah, this sounds great. And then I'm like, wait a minute, you have no idea what you're talking about. No. Or like, it's really frustrating when I do go to look up like local stuff. Like for the gaming magazine, I was filling out a section that's about in-person events. And I realized, even though I want to distribute my magazine local, I hadn't, like none of the master lists I had found had anything local to me. And I knew there were events. And so I pulled up the couple that I knew, and then I was trying to look up other ones. And I found some Reddit threads of being like, hey, I'm a nerd interested in XYZ. Are there any things like this in this area? And there would be one thing listed, and then the rest are like drinking and partying or like wrestling events. And I'm just like, huh? How is that the same? What?
Yeah. I not to belabor the question, but I like it a lot. So people who are your peers, friends or family or mentors or whatever in your real life, there's a much stronger likelihood that they understand you, like who you are, where you live, the context of all the stuff happening. None of that exists with the internet. We're all a bunch of strangers online here, right? And even when I talk about like my experiences with intentional gaming, or even on this podcast, like when we're sharing stuff, we're still strangers. We don't know you or your situation. And when you take everything online, like the sheer amount of noise right now of people saying they will like solve all the unhappiness in your life and make everything more fulfilling and better. Like they don't know you and your situation. So I think getting advice from respected peers in real life always should be number one.
Yeah.
And don't lose perspective on that too, because it is astonishing just how much of this online, it is the trend. Like right now, it won't be the trend. There's always going to be a new trend, but it is definitely like from the weird backlog culture video explosion thing that happened a year and a half ago to now like Switch 2's in vogue right now. I'm seeing like 1,000,001 videos of people like, now's the time to buy the Switch 2. And that's going to be the little hot zeitgeist of YouTube for a hot minute. And then there's going to be something new. And everybody's going to follow that trend. And it's just, if you live your life from those trends to trends, dude, instead of like actually taking the time to think, listen, and feel for yourself, it's going to be super exhausting. You're going to be living everybody else's like algorithmic trend life.
Dude, that's actually a thing. I meant to get a link in like for, I guess, the next Dual Comm, and I've already lost it. I'll have to find it and include it in the show notes for this. There's actual like reporting now about how the younger, Gen Z, Gen Alpha are struggling to maintain any sort of personal taste because it's all just algorithmically influenced. And so everyone's getting homogenized and no one wants to just like, you don't have that weirdo you knew in high school that had really unique taste in music, but like, because everyone just gets it from the same source now. Like, it's
oh my gosh, it's like monoculture is kind of back, even though all the videos are like, there is no monoculture anymore.
Speaking of the videos, you want to know what's really creepy?
What?
I've suddenly started seeing a bunch of the kinds of channels that we see these headlines from of people selling their Steam Deck.
I know.
And I'm like, what? What? The ripple effect feels so... Anyway, all right. Next comment from SethMan53. I've been thinking about this recently and thought I'd ask you two. Do you think sequel games with long development cycles, for example, like GTA 6 and Elder Scrolls 6, will live up to the hype of the predecessors? Personally, I don't think they will, at least for me. In the time between these games, I've already played most of, if not all, the other games in their series, and my tastes have moved on since then. That and Bethesda games have a type of jank to them, which back in the day was excusable due to the sandbox and world they put you in, but now I feel like modern gaming landscape doesn't accept that on release anymore. I was 12 when I got Skyrim. Oh, that hurts my bones. On the 360, and was 25 when I played Oblivion Remastered on PC. So I will be 30 plus when Elder Scrolls 6, or will I be 30 plus when Elder Scrolls 6 finally hits Steam? My tastes and standards for games have changed, as does everyone's over time. I'm curious what you two think about any of these old game titles that haven't had releases in years, and if they will live up to everyone's expectations due to the long wait when they return.
What a great, we just talked about this actually yesterday because GTA 6 got its price point and all that stuff. And GTA 6, I feel like probably will live up to that hype. I feel as if Rockstar doesn't push stinkers out very often. And I mean, look at the amount of hype behind these trailers. It's like 112 million views on the freaking logo reveal video.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They had a trailer for the cover reveal. What world are we living in?
There's such a Taylor Swift level Eras Tour hype, for this kind of thing where I'm just kind of baffled. I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm not a big GTA fan, just straight up. Not really games that I grew up with. I can understand why it's such a big deal. So I think they won't miss, but man, I think the new Elder Scrolls game is absolutely going to be like a huge disappointment because you're right. Yeah. I don't think Bethesda has made or kept up with the expected leaps necessary. And when you had, Morrowind, oh my gosh, into Oblivion, whoa, into Skyrim, whoa. And I know a lot of people see like Morrowind as like being a higher like point critically, but those are all 3-4 years in between one another for those releases. And now we are the 14 years, 15 years, whatever. Like, there's no way. I just do not. I think Bethesda's going to release a prettier version of a very similar game to Skyrim. And people are going to go, why didn't we get this in 2016 or 17? And I hope that's not the case, but there's just like, so if we follow this trend, Elder Scrolls 7 will be out when Epos and I are like 60. There's going to be, somebody has to come into the room here with a little bit of reason and go, so when's your release date? Because my question is, they seriously have never-ending funding for a 15-year dev cycle. I would imagine there's got to be somebody with the checkbook going, I'm not going to just pay bajillions each year to keep a studio building on something forever. Movies have release dates. There's a point in time where production is this window, this is that window. What gets left on the cutting room floor doesn't make it. It's crazy, right?
I saw a Corridor Crew clip about a video. It was a Hungarian film made inspired by a Hungarian poem. The entire film was animated through oil painting.
Wow.
Every single frame of the film was a completely bespoke oil painting. And they did it in 6 years.
Wow.
You can make a game.
I mean, is this not a question that's going to enter, though, into the conversation? Because if we're at 15-year dev cycles, is there going to be a 20 or 25-year dev cycle?
I mean, that's what doesn't make it. There's going to be no one left that knows your game to enjoy it. Like, that's what is crazy. And I think we are reaching this weird big bubble thing, and it's going to pop, and we're going to have to go back. Because, yeah, you bring up Morrowind to Oblivion to Skyrim. Some people still think Morrowind was better in many ways, and that's fine. The thing is, any innovations or like improvements that these games made felt so much bigger because they were happening so fast.
Yeah.
I also recently watched a video. I am so sorry I forget the channel name, but it was about a guy doing a Halo boot camp, and he's one of those people that were just like,
see, hold on real quick. You want to talk about monoculture? That was suggested to me as well. The dude holding like the 360 and all the games or whatever. Yeah.
And he's one of those doing like a retro game only challenge kind of thing, and Halo was just part of it. But like he talked about like how he felt having like he apparently missed out on Halo 2 back in the day for like life reasons, and so going from Halo CE to Halo 2 on the original Xbox, he's like super shocked that it's even the same console or whatever. And it's really easy to look back at going from Halo to Halo 2 to Halo 3 and jumping from Halo to Halo 2 and be like, yep, that's an improvement on the graphics engine, but I can see that it's the same game engine and it's the same system limitations and whatever. And then Halo 3, sure, it had some big like graphic improvements, but like applied with the time compression of like looking backwards in time, it's easy to be like, yeah, that was a natural linear progression and was pretty typical. But at the time, every little improvement in graphics felt like this mind-blowing achievement because it was only 2 years later or 3 years later. And we're like, how did they I just finished this other game. How did they make it look this like, what are they doing? They got magic. It's crazy. You can see Johnson smoke out of his cigar in Master Chief's helmet. What's going on here? And when you insert a 10-year gap in that, it creates a paradox of, had you just released more of the same with slight improvements in the first place, it would have been fine. When you add the 10-year gap, it is inflating expectations. It's further alienating the people that were hooked on the games because they're moving on and they are changing. And there are, like, as you go through time, the leaps that you could make are no longer there. Like, if you start developing a game for the Xbox 360 and you got some crazy new graphics tech that's going to make it look amazing for the Xbox 360, but then the Xbox One comes out and you got to release it on the Xbox One instead, your crazy graphics innovations aren't going to look that good anymore because you've taken too long and other things have come up. And so whether it's graphics, I know I keep saying graphics, like that's the easy marketable thing, but like gameplay mechanic wise, I mean, using the usual punching bag of Concord, I'm sure Concord would have been a like decent mechanic wise like hero shooter back when hero shooters were relevant. But when you take 8 years to capitalize on a short-term multiplayer game trend, the trend's gone. And like that's what we saw with the Dragon Age cycles over and over, is they're like, yeah, let's make it an MMO. Oh crap, MMOs aren't relevant anymore. Backpedal, make it single player. And then with the other one, they're like, yeah, we're going to make it a live service game. Wait, the gamers are kind of mad about that. Take that back. Don't do that either. Oh no. You can't keep up with trends. You can't be a part of trends. You can't set the trends. You can't adapt. You can't have innovations that make sense for 10 years worth of development because the innovations are happening around you. I think for the people who are just fans of a game and want more of it, it is relatively easy to get more of it and hopefully games like Elder Scrolls 6 will meet those people's wants. If you just want Skyrim 2, you're probably getting it. But if you're expecting to feel like it felt going into Skyrim as this new game-changing entry, you're probably not going to feel it.
Trying to look up how long Cyberpunk 2077 was in development. So, very long time, but I'm not getting a number coming up right now, but not as long as I think this Elder Scroll game has been in the oven. I would love to be completely wrong. Both Epos and I love Skyrim, love Oblivion. I really like Bethesda games. Like, I super enjoyed Fallout New Vegas. Well, excuse me, that's not. Fallout 4 was great. It was great too. Sorry, Obsidian. But it's so long. There's so many expectations on this, and the charm of the jank is gone for the new generation. I don't think like a fresh crop will come in and be as impressed. And
I think you saw that with Starfield. Like, I think Starfield would have done a lot better in like 2016. But
if they released games more frequently, people have a lower tolerance. For or a higher tolerance, I should say, for like a 7 out of 10. You know. I really miss the Bungie era Halo games because about every 3-4 years you were getting a new Halo title with a finished campaign, new multiplayer. In the later games, you had the PvE stuff with Firefight. And once we move into these just gigantic dev cycles that are so long, the expectations are crazy, right?
Yeah.
Infinite 2021?
Yeah.
So we're 5 years on, no new multiplayer.
Yeah.
We're going to get the campaign evolved here in a month.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a multiplayer thing in the next few years, but then when you're looking at like 7 to 10 years for a new multiplayer release, I mean, it's challenging.
That's a good frame of reference. Like, how do you make peace with the fact that the gap between entries is the same amount of time that most of us spent playing all of the original entries, which was brought up in that comment of like the time we spent, if you played them at launch and stuff, of Halo 1 through 3 is now the time you wait between titles. Like that those are the formative experience. Like, that is the formative gap in time. Like, you can't just leave that. Like, there's so much. And the frustrating thing is it's not entirely the game's fault. Like, any game in a vacuum, I mean, obviously there's lots of influences and things can happen, but like any game theoretically in a vacuum that takes that long to release is probably still fine. But the people in the world change so much that like, and you can't control the narrative of expectations over that length of time. Like, that's the big issue with things like Halo or whatever. Like, when Halo changed so drastically entry to entry, because it was just, we were constantly getting new ones, you could more comfortably kind of fall out with it and then come back when you were ready or whatever. And with these, like, it's kind of make or break. It's like, am I going to even remember that Halo exists in 10 years if I have to wait 10 more years to hope I like the next Halo game? Like, All
right. So Cyberpunk, good old AI answer here for us. 8.5 years. It was announced in May 2012 and released in December 2020. Actual full production, they say, is closer to 4 years. They said it didn't really ramp up until around 2016.
Yeah, I was going to say they had The Witcher 3 come out in like 2016 or 2017. So
I feel like a lot of games are so overscoped these days. And we're always met with it's much harder to make games these days. But I don't think as the player, I notice the difference of like, okay, well, if we've got 15 years, I know this is not 1-to-1, but your brain would think that you would get a game that's got like double or triple or quadruple the amount of like content and wow factor as a Skyrim.
Or just improvements at least.
Yeah, and I don't know. By the way, I just played 30 hours of Skyrim this year, like December on, and still love the game. Huge respect for it. Tons of fun. But playing it and realizing like, I don't know if this exact experience is really going to wow people, like a new generation of people.
Yeah,
so
it's not. look at how booming the indie space is. Games are easier than ever to make. The old strategy was you found a formula that resonated with audiences and you milked it dry for sequels until everyone grew up. And they stopped doing that. Instead, they said, what if we had multiple generations be born and grow into adults before we get the next sequel?
I'll play the devil's advocate on the why they're harder to make, because I've asked this this question over the years, and there's like a lot more, at least on Xbox side. They have a ton of accessibility things that they have to build and do now, is one of the answers. And I'm guessing because the scope of games has shifted. I really need to do the research on it, but I think there is some validity to, and a lot of it is self-made, right? I think the visual expectations are just wrong, but you see it with so many of the AAA games. They go photorealistic, and that's, my gosh, way harder. Even look at like the Wolverine stuff.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that is way harder than if they made a Wolverine stylized like Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom or something like that. So scope creep is super normal now, right? The visual expectations are crazy. I don't know about bugs or testing or quality assurance if that's gone through the roof, but I know the size of teams for AAA stuff is enormous now. And I think maybe what they're saying too is like, would you say I think player expectations have shifted. It's weird. 7 out of 10s, we grew up with that being totally fine. But now in the internet era, it's a 7 out of 10 you failed, I feel like.
Do you? Or
no, wait. I don't feel that way. I love, like, I'm on a journey of like just playing whatever feels good to me. I just bought Metroid Prime 4, dude. I know it's like not considered the greatest. I'm having a good time with it for my reasons, but even though that's like an 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10 game in that franchise, you've got the like YouTube consensus of like, wasn't Metroid Prime 1 perfection? Worthless.
Yeah.
Failure.
But like that's what I'm trying to get to, is all of that is still self-made problems.
Yeah.
They are overscoping and failing to manage their projects. They are targeting unrealistic sales numbers and then dooming games that would otherwise be sustainable and successful because they don't hit these arbitrary numbers or because they overinflate. Like, to me, the games are not harder to make. The tools should, if it's like any other technology on the planet, it gets easier and faster. And sure, there may be an extra bump with doing additional accessibility accommodations. I think that is a low-hanging fruit excuse, because I think the scope, the scale to which that would make game development more difficult does not match the degree to which games have inflated in scope and time, not even exponentially. But like, it's bad project management. It is capitalist driven like numbers that aren't relevant to actual game sales numbers. And it's just, to me, it's all self-made. And I'm sure there's like little difficulties, but I don't think the social media noise matters if the sales numbers are there. I think there are plenty of games that sell good enough that are still being deemed failures because either people are just outragey about it on social media, which shouldn't matter, or because it's not Fortnite. And like, the bar we're measuring against is just busted.
It seems, again, I'm on the outside. It seems like at the AAA level, a very messy space. You just see that by the pure volatility of the studios getting shut down, the like size and scale of some of these teams. And you're right. I think a lot of it is this self-made stuff. I mean, the expectation for the photorealism element, I don't think is in sync with the majority of players. I would take an Astrobot looking game, a Ratchet and Clank looking game, anything stylized, and maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe those are just as difficult to create as the photorealistic stuff. But I don't think players have the same insane expectations that whatever these, big focus groups for the AAA stuff are saying that they need, like, we lost out on getting Halo games that had campaign, multiplayer, PvE, theater mode, split screen, local co-op, all this stuff every 3 years. And I still prefer those games far more than like a campaign to like Infinite's campaign, which I liked, but I would prefer like a linear 10 mission campaign any day of the week.
Yes.
I would much prefer the old box model style than like, we're going to make a 10-year live service game. So it's...
We had games with more features, with more content, with more depth that lasted longer, that were made in a fraction of the time for a fraction of the cost. And even if people disagree with me, I just want you to consider, just let it sit in your brain, the contradiction, the juxtaposition of AAA games costing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. We're told that it's just too expensive to make them anymore, that they got to make cuts, that it's too hard to make, and that none of them are successful enough, versus the indie and AA space, where people are like, yeah, me and my buddy made this game over the course of a year and a half or 2 years, and all my debts are paid. I paid off my student loans. I can afford to make games for the rest of my life now, and it's this really successful thing. And that story is not unique anymore. That just keeps happening.
Yeah.
And no, they're not making Cyberpunk. But they're making video games.
Yeah.
And they're making them frequently. I'd rather have a bunch of Skyrims or a bunch of Halo Reaches than an Infinite every 10 years or a Cyberpunk every 20 years, because I just want to play video games. And going back to the expectation thing, the more you lower frequency, the more expectations ramp up just inherently.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Cyberpunk. I'd rather have the Cyberpunk we got split up into like 3 games and been way more dialed and polished than one, and it'd be jank at launch and broken for a year, and then great, and wait 15 years for the next one.
I wonder how long they spent on Phantom Liberty.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like 3 years, because Phantom Liberty is like, it's so good. If you're going to play 2077, go through the story, but play Phantom Liberty. I beat 2077 at launch. Kind of enjoyed it. It had moments where it kind of lived up, and then a lot of moments where it just clearly fell super short. I think Phantom Liberty came really close to delivering on that promise of what's next. And we are on a precipice. I think we're about to break through to a new era, a new standard for some of these like crazy big open world style games. And I think Cyberpunk teased that possibility. Their marketing was way more effective than the actual game execution. But I remember seeing that original trailer going like, wow, so many possibilities and branching pathways and choices in this giant inhabitable world. It felt like a huge leap forward. And then you played it and it's like, okay, no, it's kind of like a little bit of GTA driving around the city. I see the mission structure. It's a bit linear. You can't really do all the stuff that they highlighted. But there will be a game, I think, in the next decade that smashes through this new era. And we're going to be like, wow, that's insane. And those are the kind of games I think where you're like, okay, I understand a 10-year dev cycle. When you really are building and moving the needle that far. My hope is with like the new Cyberpunk game, Cyberpunk 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
That they're just taking all the bones and as much as possible from what they've already spent so much time building, turn Liberty City into that world where you can go in every building and there's storylines all over the place. Like, don't start from scratch and begin again on a 12-year, dev cycle or whatever. So
yeah, why are so many games starting from scratch when, of all companies, since we were talking about them, Bethesda is content to keep using their busted tech forever? Like, we should only be starting from scratch when we really need a hard reset. Like, clearly Halo needed a new engine. Clearly they couldn't just keep duct taping their engine together and slapping new names on it. Like, that is a scenario where you need it. But every other game, like, I would love to just go back to some of these older game engines and just keep making new stuff, and it's got to be easier and cheaper. And I've been preaching that since the PS2. Like, I would love for us to crack open some old PS2 game engines and just start making games again. Like, that would be sick.
I don't mean this in an insidious or negative way, but there's probably some job security when you don't have a release date, when you're a studio that's powerful enough to basically say, we need this budget every year for a decade, and we'll launch when we're good and well ready. And
but it's such a gamble because it's like it's job security for like a year.
Well,
or two,
then everybody's fired, right?
Yeah,
It's a 7 out of 10, and they literally like shut down the studio. There's like 1,500 people out of work. I mean,
yeah. I think there's been a lot of TV show plots about that. It's like, okay, we got to keep it going as long as we can because as soon as it's over, it's really over.
Yeah.
All right, we will continue.
Yeah, let's take a break.
Yeah, we're going to expound on this a little bit with like a slightly different angle on this topic as we get back from our break.
See you soon. Welcome back to Party Chat episode 11. We are in the second half of the show, and now we have more topics and questions to dive into. What is next, Epos?
Yeah, we had a good amount of Patreon stuff today. We often don't have that much. So next up, I guess we kind of talked about it a little bit, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but you were talking about how you were talking to me in DM about how it feels like games are now made more for like a film audience. And I had brought up the quadruple A walkie-talkies.
Yes, that's right. And I had said, well, don't read it. Use it as the prompt. Oh, man, I didn't even follow the show notes. Okay, but basically,
I mean, you can read it. I just didn't want to be like, I'm going to highlight your DM in our show. Exposed.
So I was basically saying, like, I am recognizing when I say I've been taking a step back here lately. I'm kind of slowing down a little bit with videos. I'm super slowing down watching YouTube because I'm trying to reclaim a little bit more of my mental space. I feel like the more you make videos, no matter how hard you try to disconnect, it always impacts your thinking at like a subconscious level. You're always thinking about ideas through the lens of content, even if you're trying to be like authentic. And so I've really been taking a pretty heavy step back from all of this stuff. And what I've noticed is, I guess it's not that big of a revelation, gaming has grown substantially since that PlayStation 2 era. And you don't have as many titles built at the enthusiast level. Those quadruple A walkie-talkies were not really the target demo as much, Epos. This is for people who are super fresh to gaming in many ways. They are like the summer tentpole pictures where they're now wanting the experience to be incredible for people who've maybe never picked up a controller before. And you lose some of the specialness, right, of that PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, even a bit of the PS4 era, where they were making games much more with regular gaming players in mind. And it wasn't as easy to probably hop into as a casual. There was a bit more of a barrier of entry. And that's all, I think that's all like the topic is, you know, there's a lot of enthusiast level people who are super angry and frustrated that they don't get more releases, super hyper targeted at them at the quadruple A level. But then when you take a step back and realize like the majority of the people who engage with this hobby aren't really watching YouTube that often. They're probably going to the store, seeing a box art and picking up a game because either their friend told them to or the box art looked cool. They're way more casual than what people think.
And see, I found this really interesting because it feels like a contradiction. And maybe this is the boomer in me. But if I'm thinking about someone who isn't really a capital G gamer, and they've heard a lot about these video games, and they want to pick something up, are they going to pick up a not often interactive 80-hour experience that they like? Are they going to have time for that, or are they going to want a little something that they can just play and poke at and be gamified? And I feel like, if anything, the mobile game market kind of shows that a lot of people do just kind of, like, even people who don't play video games want something to just play with. And these kinds of big quadruple A games are not things you play with. They're lengthy experiences that one might argue, if you're going to commit 80, 100 hours into something like this, you got to be hardcore. It's not a casual experience.
Which games in particular are you like thinking of?
I'm
Like
thinking
a
of like
mega like open world kind of game?
Horizon, Last of Us, an open world game, especially. Even the God of Wars, like you're not getting in and getting a feel for what video games are. You are locked in for potentially months of your life. Like,
I feel like they've found, let's say for the bigger Sony titles, I feel that 20 to 30 hours has become pretty much the sweet spot that they're aiming for with a lot of these titles.
yeah, I knew lots of people growing up that as like the PS2 and PS3 were big, as gaming was starting to get some mainstream relevance, who weren't gamers, but were just like, oh, have you played blah, blah, blah? I saw the cover for that and that looked sick. And it's like this random like samurai or zombie game or like prototype or something where like maybe some of that summer blockbuster vibe, but isn't this massive investment like hardcore game. And to me, that's actually a lower barrier of entry. And especially with a game like Horizon or like The Last of Us, like you have to, and maybe obviously The Last of Us has the show going for it, and same with Fallout. And I know there's a lot of easy, low friction movement there. But I just think about these bigger games, and I'm just like, I'd have a lot of trouble pitching anyone who wasn't planning on sitting on their couch for 50 hours to play these things. Whereas if it's this little handheld game or like this little thing you can download on your computer and poke at sometimes, easy sell. Like I said, I hit my microphone. Like I said, it's one of those things where maybe it's the boomer in me, but I feel like we'd actually reach more people if we had more play as like low scope play. Like Astrobot, I feel like has to be way more accessible. And I think about it even from like a kid's perspective. Like what is going to appeal to the kids? And you can give a kid today Ocarina of Time and they're going to be able to play it without any questions. You give a kid a big long story, tons of cutscene games, and they're going to be bored out of their mind. That's why Fortnite is like king with kids.
I wonder if like the actual like SKU or the target demo for like Horizon has got to be what, like 18 to 39? Probably.
But yeah. But that identifies what you've identified before with like, we need more Astrobots. Like the PS5 doesn't have much that appeals to that younger crowd at all.
No, it's like a much more, like most of the state of play stuff leans outside of the like teen years, I would say. I played some Astrobot actually a couple of days, probably 2 weeks ago. Oh, it's fresh save. I 100% of that game a couple of years ago, and I love it. It's so great. But yeah, I really wish they had 4 or 5 more games like that, because it is the best demonstration of the DualSense. The art style makes it look phenomenal. It's just pure joy. You can pick it up, you can put it down easily. I was thinking about this actually this morning before the show. The DualSense with those like haptic triggers, that is probably the biggest step forward Sony's had with their controllers, honestly, since they put analog sticks on like the PS1 pads. I don't think they've had 6-axis whatever motion controls. Didn't really do it for me.
Great. The speaker is on the controller is dumb.
Yeah, well, it's kind of fun in a game like Astrobot if you don't have to use headphones or whatever. But wouldn't you say like that's probably the biggest leap they've taken forward with like their inputs in a long time? And there's only a handful of games I think that use it well. Like Gran Turismo 7 has cool tension. I haven't tried any of the FPS games, but I know like the trigger can feel like, you know, when you're firing some cool stuff.
So I tried that with, the Black Ops I got when I got my PlayStation 5. I don't remember which Black Ops. I think it was Cold War. I can't keep track of them now. I had a Call of Duty and it had the haptic triggers thing. And honestly, it sucked. Like, because some guns, like, it only let you go back so far and it's supposed to feel, but it was honestly just kind of distracting.
Yeah.
But in like Spider-Man, it was awesome.
Yeah, that's a good point. Great point there.
And I will, since, I mean, you argued against it, but I'll argue against myself. The speaker on the controller thing. My kiddo has finally started playing a Pokemon game with me. We started playing Let's Go. And he's playing with the Pokeball controller, the little Pokeball Plus.
Yeah.
And it vibrates and makes noise when you catch a Pokemon, and then it'll make the Pokemon sound if you catch them. And he freaking loses his mind holding that up to his ear, waiting to hear if he caught a Pokemon or whatever. So like there are good applications of it. I just think to like, I think it was like Killzone and a couple other games where I'm playing in a normal scenario and then suddenly out of nowhere my controller's just like blasting audio at me and I'm like, I don't want this. Like,
Part of me is now wondering too, and we'll move into the rest of the comments here. We don't need to hang out too long. How much is Sony holding back for PS6 launch? And at this point, we're hitting such diminishing returns with graphics. We're not going to have Mondo generational leaps anymore. And that's been the case for multiple generations now. We're iterative steps. Yes, PS5 looks better than PS4, but there's a lot of people who are happily sticking with their PS4 for as long as possible. I talked about Metroid Prime 4. It's on Switch 1. It's on Switch 2.
Yeah.
And, sure, graphically looks lovely, but for the most part, you're going to have to see people selling games moving forward, like the developers, more so on like the quality of the game and less on the visuals, in my opinion, because it's not going to be as much of the look what this thing can do. Those returns are going to get less and less and less. So as we look into the next generation of Xbox and PlayStation feels like, yes, there's a tranche of games coming out, but I feel like we're at the last like tail end of PS5's like main lifespan. But it's going to live way longer than people expect because I do not see a huge grouping of players jumping on PS6 at $700, $800, $900, $1,000. And I think Sony's probably going to see that too with the memory crisis and all that happening. We're probably about to have a pretty hefty grouping of games that are PS6 launch titles that are being worked on right now that have PS5 versions as well. What do you think about that?
No, I agree. I mean, we're still seeing most things still release on PS4 as well, which is bananas. I think this will be the longest cross generation life that we've ever had. It's rough because I think you're right. Like we're gonna start seeing Sony withhold things, but they're probably going to be pressured. At least the third parties are going to be pressured to do PS5 versions as well. Still, since we're still seeing so much movement on the PS4 front, it's rough because I feel like this past State of Play in June here was the most compelling argument for a PS5 Pro that has ever been made. Like we're finally seeing games where it's like, yeah, I kind of want that extra performance now. Whereas before, I never really saw the point. Obviously, it's ridiculously expensive, but then you get stuck in that weird space of like, do you get a PS5 Pro right now or do you wait for a 6? But a 6 could be delayed multiple years now. And yeah, I don't see anyone chomping at the bit to buy a new $900 console in the next couple years or $1,000 or $800 or whatever it's going to be. I do think that they're going to have to keep investing in the PS5 experience for a long time. I honestly, I want to know when the cutoff will be when people stop, like when studios stop making PS4 games, because I know we still have releases going into next year for it, which is, I mean, part of that is the benefit of the backwards compatibility. Like a PS4 game is a PS5 game. Like, so why limit your buyer base? But I don't know what they're going to do to make it compelling for anyone. But that's part of why I go back to, why do we not have more games for kids? Why do we not have more like the PS1 was the ultimate kids machine. And then the PS2 was like the ultimate teens machine because you got all those slightly more mature games. And then it feels like they really locked into that older demographic. And I'm currently experiencing like that bell curve of when you're a kid, you want a certain type of game experience. And then you reach, like you said, the 18 to 25 demo, and you want all these edgy, mature, long titles because you're gaming the heck out of life. And then I'm back on the other side of the bell curve where I'm like, I want more kids games because they're more fun for me and I have more time for them. And they don't exist on this platform.
For like the PS4 releases, you're talking like third party.
Yeah, not big stuff. Sony games, but like we're still getting new PS4 games, which is crazy.
Most of the like really good third party PC stuff, you're still seeing land over there. I'm sure like as Dave the Diver PS4. Yeah, it is. So
there's a new Sesame Street game coming in like November that's going to be for both, and I realize that's just like such an obscure random little thing, but like the PS4 is still a target platform. It's not this thing that were abandoned. Like it is still a release platform, which is just
It's a phenomenal value.
yeah.
If you are looking at the landscape going, this sucks, you can get a PS4 Pro on eBay for about $130. And
Yeah.
congrats, you're going to have something that's going to play so many of those incredible third-party, like Steam release style titles.
Yeah. And in
They're
5
just great.
years when a PS5 is cheaper, then you still get to play all those just a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the big reasons that I've been back playing Switch is because I like that style of game. I've been playing Link's Awakening. I've been playing Mario Kart, a little Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
Those are Donkey Kong Bonanza. Like those are the Astrobot style family games that are like fun. And I wish Sony had more of them. I wish
Yeah.
Xbox had more of them, but they're clearly targeting like that older skew. You look at Xbox, what's next? E-Day? That is super not kid oriented. You know, even as a Gears fan, I'm like, my gosh, it's dark.
Yeah.
Like literally, it's nighttime. It's E-Day.
I gotta wonder if the hardware pricing and like software pricing, I guess software pricing doesn't apply because Nintendo games are expensive, but like the PS5 is such an expensive system. Do they just assume that parents aren't going to buy them for their kids, so they just don't invest in software for that? Like, I'm just trying to figure out how we lost that, because maybe Xbox never had a bunch. Like they had a couple franchises, especially once they acquired Rare, but like the PlayStation was the home of Spyro and Crash and Jack and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank and all this stuff, and they have so few of them now. Do they just can they write off that market because kids aren't getting $800 PS5s?
I think you're right. They
That
obviously
sucks.
spend an immense amount of money on audience research. I guarantee you there's millions spent on data and focus groups and all that. And they know their primary skew of players. We've grown up with PlayStation. It's people like maybe a little bit younger than us, maybe a little bit older than us. Maybe it's us. I don't know. But, I would take a happy Astrobot any day over the adult, edgy, this is super grungy, gnarly stuff. Maybe that's just me, because I'm just how I roll. But
I mean, even with Crash 4, I felt like they tried to make it too hard.
Look, the original Souls game is Crash 1. Do you remember when the Insane Collection trilogy, whatever, came out and everybody was shocked at how hard it was? It's like, yeah, that's right. We grew up with this. There was no prisoners. But no, I know.
Especially if you didn't have a memory card, like you were writing down your passwords instead of saving.
Crash 4, they did a darn good job, but it missed a lot of the mark. I feel like there is that hesitancy that you say, or you highlighted, to just make a fairly simple, more casual oriented game with difficulty. The ability to pick up and just play right away is so prevalent with a lot of those older titles. And like you mentioned with kids, they don't have 20 minutes of exposition patience built into them. They just want to play the game and teach me while I play. So
maybe it wasn't too hard. Maybe it was just like that. Like something about it felt like, wait a minute, this isn't just more of Crash 1 through 3. Like they are trying to do a little more still, and I don't want that. I just want them to throw up the game and that be it. Like I don't know. Anyway, we got some additional comments to get through in the last bit of the show here. Curtis Fainstock.
I think you got it.
Yeah. 8568. First of all, you guys are my favorite. I get so excited when your discussion videos come out. There's no other channels with discussions like you have. Thank you. Well, thank you. Second, I would love to hear you two talk about cloud gaming and if that's now one of the best affordable options for new and existing gamers, since streaming is so much better now and prices for dedicated devices are up. GeForce Now and Amazon Luna can be played with just an Amazon Fire Stick and any controller you choose. Most people already have an Amazon account and the mid-tier on GeForce Now is only $10 a month, bringing in a ton of Steam games as well. Would love to know your opinions on this being a new viable budget option for gamers.
Does feel like Stadia kind of blew it with their timing,
right?
I wish they held out for a little. I'm sure they wish they held out a little longer for the AI crisis to happen, because I think they have a much more compelling offer. But I never tried it. I can't stand latency with gaming. I feel like latency is so integral to the main experience that I have. If it's a chill walkie-talkie or a strategy game or whatever, who cares? But for the type of stuff that I gravitate towards, any amount of added latency is unacceptable. So I see a future where, yes, cloud gaming does have an audience. If they're okay with not the setbacks, but the whatever the word
Drawbacks.
is, the drawbacks. Thank you, that you have to stomach. You've tried it, I think, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm really torn because I feel like, yes, it sounds more accessible on paper, both financially and just needing a Fire Stick and a controller or whatever. I feel like it still has, like, at least if nothing else, and I don't mean this in a way that it should be better, but just from a blanket neutral perspective, it still has like a perception problem because it still sounds and seems like something niche and nerdy enough that I don't think normal people are leaping to jump into if they don't have gaming hardware. And I don't know how that gets fixed, and I don't know that I want it to get fixed. I have so many apprehensions when it comes to, like, obviously the ownership aspect of it. But also, at least with my understanding of how GeForce Now was, you still have to buy you still have to own the game on your Steam account. You're just running it on their hardware. So I think that's too many steps for people. I think if we end up with like a Netflix, and I hate to say this because they're trying to make it happen, but a Netflix where like Amazon Luna is effectively that. Like, you already have your subscription and you get to just play these games without buying anything else. Some people might be interested, but I think the people who care enough about these games are going to want some degree of that traditional model in order to get them. That, like, even the people it's supposed to reach, it still feels like it's not for them, and it just creates this weird incongruence that it doesn't seem to be that popular. And even GeForce Now keeps focusing on multiplayer stuff, which is not the application. Like, it's so weird.
Apex sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll play a game that already has online latency. Now it's being rendered with latency, and I have input lag. Ugh.
Yeah, I don't know why they like focusing on that market. It feels like a market of just like tons of contradictions. I obviously, from a hardware perspective, sure, a $10 a month subscription sounds cheaper than running it on something you have, but or something you have to buy that you don't have. But I think it's too vague, and like the people and the people that really don't have any gaming stuff, especially for something like GeForce Now, like, they're gonna have to juggle a GeForce Now account and a Steam account and buy the game and pay the subscription to play the game. They're gonna lose track of their logins. Like, if I think about it from like a normal household perspective, I think it's too convoluted.
Well, without internet infrastructure revolutions in this country, I don't think it's going to shift unless somebody comes up with some new magic doohickey that eliminates the input delay and the compression artifacting.
Even in-house streaming is still like, you can still, you saw everyone when the PlayStation Portal launched be like, I have really good Wi-Fi and this thing is so laggy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you're dealing with physics here.
Yep.
It's just being rendered somewhere else, and it takes time to get to you. And if you're okay with it, cool. But I don't think it's going to be, at least right now, the revolution. Not saying it won't. It's a cool concept. It's amazing to think that in our lifetime we've seen this happen. But yeah. It's a great comment, though. So let's hop on to Shepherd of Fire. Monster Hunter Wilds is still a great game, man. He's probably referring to me because I was highlighting that it wasn't received as well as World and Rise. But anyway, continue. I know there were performance issues on PC, and that's valid, but the game is really fun and ran fine on console the whole time. The DLC will be fun, but the base game is also amazing, and I haven't even gotten to the final 2 monsters that were released. That is fantastic. I love Monster Hunter. Been playing, I played a little bit on the PSP when I was growing up. And then I super got sucked into Monster Hunter World and put like 300 hours into it, and then got an eBay. This is long before the 2DS or 3DS hype happened. So I got a new 2DS on eBay used and played through Monster Hunter games there. I imported Generation Ultimate for the Switch when it was only in Japanese and played that. And they are phenomenal games. So I've just echoed what I've heard, that Wilds is not as strong as some of the other entries. That does not mean it is not a great game. So hats off, enjoy the DLC.
You mean to say you were participating in the discourse without having played it yourself, Mr. Dragon?
That's right. I am part of the problem. I am part of the zeitgeist.
Cole VF, I ended up selling my Steam Deck recently. Luckily, I was able to sell it for what I bought it for. Great device, but it was too big for me to take with me, and if I'm already in my room, I'm going to play at my PC or PS5. The games I'm interested in playing handheld don't need heavy hardware anyway. Wasn't for me.
I'll hop in there. I sold my Steam Deck too.
Yep. So
Sorry.
actually, I'm going to move a couple comments to go for that. Because, Mr. BBK Dragoon sold a Steam Deck.
Yep.
We talked
It went
about it
up
in the
in
last
price.
episode of the Dual Comm.
I made a profit. Not a huge profit, but yes, I've transitioned into Switch 2. I've been wanting Switch 2 for a while. I just have been gravitating to those kind of games. Nothing to do with the deck. The deck is a phenomenal device. Not at its new price. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you, I would not buy a deck at that price unless you are just so motivated because you're already on hardware that's multiple years old. And that's not Valve's fault. This is the whole AI crisis thing. For me, if I'm going to play PC, I'm playing it at the PC for the most part. And I just was not finding myself using it all that much. So it was an opportunity that never happens. I don't think I've ever sold a console for more than I got it for. A console that's been out for 3 or 4 years, which is just head scratching.
Yeah.
So we're in one of these unique periods in time. And I still think, what a cool device if you have one. I am tired all the time. And Tinkertown sometimes is a place I like to go to. I like to mess around with settings. I like to mod. I like to do all these things. And then sometimes I just am not in the mood for Tinkertown and dealing with cloud saves and unsupported cloud saves and messing around with things. So, I mean, I said adios.
Dude,
but I still love that device.
One of the worst things to find out when you're playing a game is that the game doesn't support Steam Cloud Save, which happens less, so infrequently. But when it does happen, it's like,
oh, it's happened to me all the time.
Oh,
dude.
really?
Dark Souls 2, Mass Effect 3, Just Cause 3.
Wait, are you playing original Mass Effect 3 or Legendary?
Legendary.
Really?
Really?
I feel like I thought it did. Okay. Yeah, I ran into that with Dragon Age Origins, and then when my PC crashed, I'm still piecing my save back together.
It's solvable. You can do sync thing. You could bounce it back and forth. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Legendary does have cloud saves, but I have found it to be not super consistent. This is not one of the main criticisms I want to dive into. That's my choice.
Yeah.
You know, they were not fully supported green checkmarky games.
Yeah. I did have one hardware question for you about this, which is why I had some of these topics here. We also had some comments from Pocket Wyvern who said, I literally sold my Steam Deck the day the price increase was announced. Can't complain too much, though, with the money I got for it. I was able to get a PSP, a PS2, and 6 games for each.
See? Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask. So BBK got the OLED Steam Deck.
Yep.
You specifically took issue with the LCD after I was like, no, the LCD one's fine because that's what I got. And you took issue with it and got the OLED one. And one of the things that I have been curious about is effectively downgrading back to LCD with the Switch 2. Do you have any complaints about the Switch 2 screen going from the nice OLED, or do you not care?
If you love the colors, the OLED on the Steam Deck is unbelievable. It's lovely. Yep. It is truly my frustration. I got one of the super light bleedy LCDs, which happens, and I mean it was enormous. It was like the sun coming out on the left-hand side of the screen on any dark loading screens.
Yeah.
And the fix for it is twist your deck shockingly hard. And I mean it's terrifyingly plastic breaking. And I break stuff. I am what is known as a chronic over tightener when it comes to bolts.
Yeah.
Even with a torque wrench. Last year, I was doing a lower leg fork service on my mountain bike, and I had it set up correctly, and I over torqued it and watched oil fall out of my fork, and $250 later to get the new part and doohickey fix because I over tightened the thing at the very end of a 2-hour service. So I sold $150 of Counter-Strike skins because I don't play Counter-Strike anymore, and apparently those skins went up, and I was like, well, I'll just return the LCD and get the OLED at the time. Yeah. And it was wonderful. Now, here's the thing that I've noticed with Switch 2. It's a 1080p screen, whereas your deck is what, 800?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a difference there.
Gotcha.
HDR sucks on Switch 2, depending on the game and the integration. It's not exceptional. So in many ways, turning HDR off for some of the games make it look better.
Yeah.
I've not noticed the crazy ghosting, terrible response time stuff that's been highlighted in a bajillion in one of these videos.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I've been playing Donkey Kong Bonanza, Mario Kart World, and a bunch of older Switch titles. No, I don't. Look, I feel like once I'm 5 minutes into an experience, I don't notice the differences anymore. The OLED was really pretty, and it had great color depth. But the Switch 2 screen seems fine for me, but that's because I'm playing the game. Yeah. You know what I mean? There was a really good video about Red Dead Redemption 2 on a CRT. The guy who talks about like finding all the rivers in Skyrim or whatever talked about. And he really highlighted something good. It's like, once you're actually playing the game and in the flow state, you forget whatever hardware you're on for the most part. And I think that is true. But yeah, it comes down to what are you willing to stomach? Because the pricing on software for Nintendo stuff is just abusive. It's insane. I mean, paying $70 for a game is more than I spend in 6 months on gaming in total. I will go into a Steam sale with $50 and be done. I mean, I probably on the PC era of playing spent less than $100 on games for like 18 months and ended up with way more stuff. But
even getting them used at like mom and pop shops, it's still like $60, and I'm like, I can't.
eBay has been good for some of the worst ones. I for the first time ever, Target, by the way, had Super Mario Odyssey for $40, brand new. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Metroid Prime 4 on eBay is like a $35 to $40 game. Still a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, truly, you're putting up with a new level of BS, which I'm quite aware of. The software pricing, you're just never going to beat on PC, and it's lovely. So, thank you for that question, though. I mean, I'm not the expert there, but the 1080p screen is pretty lovely.
Yeah, no, I was curious, like, without the expert stuff, just like your actual experience, because I was kind of the opposite in that I specifically upgraded, like, I bought a second Switch to get the Switch OLED for my personal play because I hated the Switch screen so much. But then with the Steam Deck, I was like, I'm not going to buy a second one to get the OLED. Like, the LCD is fine. I really don't have any issues with it with what I play. But then you were the opposite. You had to get the Steam Deck OLED, but then you went and got the Switch 2, which did not have it. So I was just very curious because it's quite the back and forth with screen tech that, like you said, ultimately when you're playing, it doesn't really matter, but I really just did not like the original Switch screen. So
it's pretty mushy. The OG Switch screen is quite mushy. And then I heard the Switch OLED is, I've never seen it in person, but like I've heard it's phenomenal.
It's criminal how little I've played it, given that I bought a whole second console for it, but like it is gorgeous.
That's awesome.
All right. So actually picking up Cornbread Cody, the good thing about paying full price for something is this is a good way to follow this up, is you tend to value it more. You wind up buying less and appreciate what you have more. Good episode. Edit, only buy a game when you're ready to actually play it, not advocating buying every game you're interested in the moment it releases. I cannot say I have ever once experienced this. I understand
you spend more, you're like more likely to treasure it, right? Because it's a bigger investment. I can see that logic. I can totally see that logic. You know, I'm never going to have a gigantic Switch 2 collection because $70 to $80 for a game, that's just not going to happen. I mean, more than a couple releases a year, it's just not. That's so much money now. So I will labor over the decisions substantially about what I buy. Like, we're not getting Kirby Air Riders. We're not getting the Yoshi game. I don't even know some of the other Switch 2 exclusives. We're not getting Pocovia. Yeah, there's not that many. There's not that many. But I'm not those will not be purchases. However, Star Fox comes out today.
Yeah.
It's $50. Star Fox is a very meaningful game to me in my childhood. I'm getting it. Super happy. Have no issues or qualms with that $50 price tag because it's like, this one I want.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that comes down to it's about the intentionality of it, not spending full price. Like, and maybe that's the mechanism you need to be more intentional is like, if I spend $60, I got to really make sure this is what I want. But broadly speaking, I don't think spending more should ever really equate to valuing
makes you
more.
Happier. Yeah. No.
Because I mean, that's how you end up in the whole backlog trap of like, well, I bought all these games for $60. I feel obliged to play them or whatever. But like, I think it's about the intentionality of just making better buying choices. And sometimes sometimes you do pay full price for a game. Like, I'm getting Halo and I'm going to play it. Or actually, what was the other one? Onimusha. Like, I'm so stoked to play Onimusha. And like, I will probably end up paying full price for it. I'm not going to appreciate it more because I paid full price for it, but because I'm going to sit down and like I'm going to buy it and then immediately play it and just like lock in. And that's going to be what makes me appreciate it. Same thing with like Luna Abyss. Like I sat there and just played it back to back to back and just like appreciated it a lot more.
As much as I love the patient gaming route, I think you should absolutely, if you have the funds and the means, like, and you're super hyped for something on launch,
Yeah.
go for it.
As
I
long
don't
as it's
have
just,
many
like,
of those games
occasionally.
anymore. You know,
Yeah.
this is the Star Fox will probably be the first game since Echoes of Wisdom or whatever that is a launch pickup for me.
Yeah.
I think somebody previously was like, "What about Expedition 33?" I had a Game Pass sub back then, and
That doesn't count.
no.
Yeah.
All right, Kingpen94. I usually lurk, but wanted to say great episode. The state of play was great. Has me excited. The first few months already been great gaming to me. Now I'm excited for the rest of the year. As for the platform thing, thanks to your videos and my brother, I rebuilt my PC and have been thoroughly enjoying gaming. I do admit I had to reuse old parts, but my baby is back. Nicely done. Nothing like refreshing a rig and getting it going again, you know?
Yeah. No. And reusing old parts, that's not bad. That's good.
All right. Paperclip Rain 3222. I just started a new job where I have a ton of downtime that I can read and play games. And I was going to get a Steam Deck to play PlayStation 2 games. I will now be getting a Retroid Pocket instead due to the price increase. Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
How much are the Retroid Pockets?
That's what I was just looking up. I had not.
Don't they have like a million variants?
Yeah. So the 5 is $250, but there's a 6 now, and I don't know how much that is.
$244.
Okay. So like that's a reasonable price to pay for a handheld.
It looks like a PSP.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
With
it's like,
Vita sticks.
Yeah. It's cute.
Oh, that's cool, dude.
That's one of the I mean, I hope it plays PS2 games well. That's one of the systems that's like kind of harder to really like get on the super low end hardware. Oh man, yeah, they got a million of these. They got the Pocket 6, which looks like a PSP, PS Vita hybrid. They've got the dual screen one that looks like a Steam Deck but with the second screen. The Flip 2, which looks like some weird DS without the second screen. Like they got a million ones, and I find it really hard to like keep up with this market because it's such like there's just so many.
There's like a million of them.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't keep up with it from a distance. There's so many of these things.
Go watch Wolf Den. He keeps up with those. But like it's $250 is way better of an investment in a handheld experience than $1,000 for a Steam Deck. So absolutely wonderful way to go. Love that. I plan on spending more time as we end summer here with my Ein Thor that I had picked up.
Oh, people are loving that thing, dude.
Yeah, it's sick. I don't know how well it'll play PS2 specifically, but it'd play a lot of other stuff. It's hard. I would love to hear an update comment from Paperclip Rain later on after a couple months of doing this, because even with a dedicated device, I still have this weird mind space block about playing emulated games, which is so weird because growing up, especially if I didn't have a game, I was emulating it and I was playing it and it was no different to me. It was great. But these days, it somehow just inherently takes a lower priority, and I don't always justify the time on it.
There's usually like some sort of jank with it.
Yeah.
Like the music will cut out or it doesn't display
Graphic
properly.
settings.
You know,
Like, yeah.
Tinkertown, all that stuff. Like SSX 3. Maybe there's a patch for it and I'm an idiot, but I could never get it working with PCSX2 to where the weird music triggers wouldn't break. So every time you jump in that game on original hardware, it's got all these dynamic music stems that will fade and come in. It would just break constantly on PCSX2. Even with NSO, Nintendo Switch Online, I was playing Mario Kart 64 the other day, and I'm in a circuit, and the music cut out for every single track until I relaunched the emulator. And it was hilarious. I couldn't even use the previous save state. Like to get back to where I was, it was just like completely quiet with all the Mario Kart sounds. And you're like, gosh, this is freaking official emulation too. Which I know they're emulations. Blech. I get it. Moving on.
All right. So we got two very positive. Actually, we got back-to-back positive comments here. First one's from Cats Productions YT. Love how positive this channel is. Don't know if I've ever left a comment, but please keep posting, from a lurker.
Well, thank you.
And then similarly, just briefly want to touch on, I think dogs are cool. I was going to come into this video, so this is our state of play discussion with jaded cynicism, but hearing you guys talk about the state of play with enthusiasm has me taking a moment to self-reflect and realize that even if the games didn't interest me, it's great that someone else out there has a cool game or two to look forward to in the future. It's like if I picked off a really itchy scab and have that wave of comfort once the tension is gone. That is quite the way to put it. It's weird how being happy for other people being happy is taboo on the internet. It's okay to be happy vicariously. I just love when this happens. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes we're like super positive and people are just like, okay, dude. But like sometimes it's like, man, this is what games are about. It's about just being stoked and having fun. And obviously there's a place for criticism and critique and all of those things. But like also when it's a hobby that's supposed to be your fun, at some point you have to be able to just lock that in. And I love when that resonates with people because it's such a big deal to us. Like that's basically why we started this podcast, is to be in our fun feelings and not in being cynical about things for the sake of it. And so it's always so rewarding when that hits and like transparently hits.
I genuinely hate how these have turned into things that we all react to the way like people react to like a sports game or a big event, you know, where for weeks leading up to it, the full-time creators are talking about the leaks. And then it happens and you get the live streamed reactions. And then afterwards on all the podcasts, including ours and like all the content, everybody gives it a letter grade. How did this go? What do you think? And at the end of the day, it's like, I think there were 3 games in there that looked really cool to me. About 3 or 4 games in there that looked really cool to you and spoke to you. And yet we're all evaluating it on this, like, on the whole, this was bad because nothing in here really resonated with me. I just don't like this era where we get video press conferences every nebulous amount of months. And that's how we do our announcements these days. E3 was, I get the industry kind of hated aspects of it, but I much preferred. This is the one main timing of the year where a bunch of things are going to drop and you get trickled information the rest of the year. Because it is so funny, the reaction. So many people did not like that state of play and we loved it. And I burn out so hard on all of this, the whole content creation thing, when I see how like angry and pissed off people can get because there wasn't a trailer in there that like didn't speak to them. And this is not directed towards I think dogs are cool, by the way. I'm talking about like this broader consensus of like, wow, I am not in sync at all with the broader full-time creator space when people are so raged out over this.
Yeah. No, I agree. I miss when it was just like, hey, did you hear this cool thing's coming out or whatever? There was a comment I had originally slated for this show and then kind of took out because I didn't necessarily want to dive into it. But I think it's kind of relevant here of just like they were basically complaining that they were actually bummed on the state of play because either it was release dates for things we already somewhat knew was coming, or like apparently God of War had gotten leaked. And I'm like, we had no idea God of War got leaked, or at least I didn't.
Like, I didn't either.
So like if we stop treating these things as like speculative events, like you said, like the sports thing, it's a lot more enjoyable. If I see the leaks for every time it's like, we think this and this is going to be announced at this Nintendo Direct or whatever, I'm like, I now I don't want to watch it. Like I'd rather just see it come out and be excited for what's real than for expectations that we're just making up basically, or leaks or whatever.
Well, hold on. That's a really good point. That came up a lot, by the way, with the recent Nintendo Direct that ended with the Ocarina of Time remake announcement. People were not stoked about that announcement that had basically one shot of Link because it was leaked forever ago that they're probably doing it. And so many of the content creators and the online, like terminally online people who are just like living for this stuff and eating up all the leaks, are literally mad because they didn't see more clips of gameplay. Whereas
it was supposed to be a reveal.
Yeah, I wish I hadn't heard murmurings about leaks that they are doing it because like I lost my mind. Why do you think there's a Switch 2? Why do you think I have a Switch 2? Okay.
Why do you think there's a Switch 2?
For like me, like why did I jump across that river? Why did I go for it? Ocarina of Time is top 3 of all time for me. What a game. I never thought we would get a modern style remake. It could suck. I don't care. I'm not going to look at anything to do with it online because this is an experience for me. And I'm like, I don't know how to emphasize it, but I wish more people could get back to is this experience for you? Or are you just trying to ride this internet wave and follow this consensus of a bunch of people who don't, going back to the question from earlier about getting advice from your peers care about you. The online community does not. They don't know you. They don't know what's best for you. So, like, what are you doing this for?
It was so cool getting a text from my dad, like 2 days after the state of play.
Yeah.
Being like, you see they're making a Wolverine game. It looks pretty cool. And like, I had already known about the Wolverine game for like a year because it had already been revealed. But he saw the actual gameplay and is just like, this looks sick. And like, none of the discourse internet, like, he's just like, they're doing this game of this thing I like. It looks cool. I'm excited for it. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like, of course.
That's
like,
how you want it. That's how you want this hobby to be. That's how you want your hobbies to be. Not like, oh yeah, well, let me tell you the real story here, Dad.
We already
what
had
you
the
don't
leaks.
know is
they revealed it a year ago, and in fact, this is just riffing on the game they made for the Xbox 360. And in fact, I think that they're not doing a good enough job with this, and I think Jean Grey looks like that. And I think, and like, no, it's just like,
and that's what we see on every video we upload. 99% is great, but every video you upload with any positive sentiment, there's always the like, let me tell you why I'm wrong. Let me make you as miserable as I am about this thing. Like, what if you texted your dad back the YouTube comments like, you're a fool. Let me tell you how wrong you are. That was the worst state of play I've ever seen.
Yep. I think that's a good spot to end it. We have another comment where someone is actually like super stoked at the idea of their comment being on Party Chat, and I want to make sure we get to it, but I think it deserves more conversation. So we'll do that in the next episode. I'll bump it to our next show doc.
Legendary. Thanks, dude. I love getting to do this. Sorry it was so long between the last one and this one.
Yeah, we got long development cycles too now, guys.
It's really hard. The scope hard to make is getting bigger. It's just challenging supporting such a live service style podcast, but we promise the next update will be great.
I brought on 50 new people last month to make this podcast, and next month I'm going to have to lay them off. So
we're delaying the release date of all future episodes to we don't know when it's ready, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, where can people find your work, Epos?
Lost Saves, Epos Vox, and if you are interested in the awesome, spectacular gaming magazine that will be fully on... Oh, I guess an announcement. I should have put this at the start, but whatever. Homies will know. Since by the time this episode goes live, we will be on batch 2 of the orders for the Jam Packed magazine. It is going to be available internationally, actually. That's been a huge request. We have a lot of, apparently, podcast fans in other countries. And so I will have it direct ship options that are going to be a little expensive. And so that's just life. But I did find a way to make it cheaper. So that is an option. Or if you live in Switzerland, it's available on classicgamestore.ch. And if you are in the UK, it will be soon available on 8-Bit Mods. So we will have options available to you. Go pick up a physical. It's up to 80 pages now. I had to actually inflate it a little bit. It started as like 60 pages and then I bumped it to 70 something. And then to get it printed right, I had to add a few more pages. So we're at 80 pages, beautiful screenshots, lots of good articles. I want to keep this going. That will be at the URL, and this is a real URL, jampacked, so JAMPACKD.quest. That's a URL.
Now.
That's freaking cool.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
I am on YouTube at PBK Dragoon, but if you guys follow anything, go check out the patreon.com/dualcomm.
Yeah.
You don't need to pay. I'm just encouraging the free tier because if you follow us there, you get the nice algorithmic free feed that's just our updates that Epos makes chronologically. And if you just want one place where you're not bombarded with all sorts of thumbnails and suggestions from different content and stuff, I much prefer that's a good bookmark. Honestly, that's how I always like when the new... Like, there's even email updates that show when you've posted new stuff. So that is, I think, it for this week.
Yeah. Can't wait to get back in the swing of things and hope everyone is having a great summer.
Have a great day. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again very soon.
Bye.